Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Good morning. I hope you're all well. No, it's not Tuesday, is it? What am I talking about? It's Thursday. I'm so used to doing Tuesdays, so I assumed it was Tuesday. It's definitely not. It's Thursday. Don't worry. We're nearly at the end of the week. It's my half-term week this week, so we've just come back off holiday. So I've got a couple more days left before the kids go back to school, and then it'll be half-term for most of you next week. Luckily, today's session is going to use lots of bright colours. Well, 4 to be precise, 4 bright colours, which is lucky because the weather outside is very autumnal. It's quite stormy. I think there's some weather warnings gone out. It's very windy. It's very wet. I got soaked this morning walking the dog. So this is a perfect craft to be doing on a cold, windy, rainy day. You might have, I don't know if you've come across this or not, but it's sort of had a bit of a moment the last few months. Like this is a thing that a lot of people are doing. I don't know if I don't know if it's sort of some videos have gone viral on the internet about it, but as soon as I saw it, I thought I must have a go at this. And it is really fun and really easy and really effective. So basically, we're just going to draw some lines with some highlighter pens. That's basically all we're going to do. But it's the way in which we do it, which is what makes it so effective, I think. It's the way that we draw the lines, which I'm going to show you. So today I have literally just got 4 highlighter pens. Now, I would say that I would prefer to have a blue in there. And I did try to find a blue highlighter pen. And I did find some really small, like children's ones that didn't work very well. But this was a pack. This was a pack of 4 that were from Poundland, and I think it was £2 or £3. So they're really good ones because they're big, chunky ones. So you can buy them quite cheaply, or if you have a highlighter pens knocking around your house, you could use those. But I think the most essential thing here is that you do need 4 colours. Doesn't matter what 4 colours they are, as long as you have 4 colours and they are highlighters. And the point of them being highlighters is that they're sort of translucent, which means that the colours shine through so that you can sort of overlap. That's the kind of point of this highlighter art. So as long as you've got 4 colours, it doesn't matter which 4 they are. Like I said, I'd prefer to have a blue in there because then you'd get some sort of purpley colours, but never mind. I shan't complain. I've got my 4 highlighters. And then essentially we're just going to work on just normal paper. Now, I would say, because I don't know if it's because I've had to close my blind slightly because it's glary on my face, but I don't think these pictures look as vibrant on the camera as they do in real life. I think maybe the spiral one picks up a little bit better because you can see the 2 colours underneath. But this one especially, it's definitely a lot more zingy in real life. But hopefully you can kind of see what we're going to do here. And I'm hoping that this will be a nice sort of follow on from the last session I did, which was for Mindspace Week, in that it's just really therapeutic and relaxing to do because all you're doing is drawing lines with a pen and following the lines. And so anyone can do it. It's totally accessible for absolutely anyone. As long as you've got paper, as long as you've got highlighters, you can do it. And there's different ways that we're gonna try a few different things. But I thought what I'd do is I'd just get myself some of the cheapest printer paper, because most people I think now will have, if you've got a sort of standard home printer, you'll have a pack of A4 paper that you can use for printing and for scrap paper. So I thought we'll do it on that, just to sort of show how accessible this art. I don't want to use fancy, we don't need to use fancy paper, it's highlighters. So I've just got standard white printing paper, or if you've got notebooks that you could use, any scrap paper. I think as long as it's white, then it will look good, or sort of light coloured. If it's cream, that would also be fine. I've not actually experimented with different colours. I'm sure it would work on sort of craft card and things like that. But for now, we're going to just use our standard white paper, and we'll do a few different styles. We're going to try some different things. I'm just thinking I might get my little craft board out, because there's a big line in my desk here. It's like a groove where the colour's different. So I'm just going to get my little board out so that it's nice and flat. And also I will be using a craft knife later on. You don't need to use a craft knife for what I'm doing, but it will just be easier for me to show you. So it'll be good to have this surface. So yeah, you want a nice flat surface. I would say the thing with highlighters is they sort of pick up quite a lot of sort of little, what would you call them? Little discrepancies, if you will. So when you're sort of moving the pen along, it will pick up those bits where you've had a bump or we've gone over something. Now that's not a problem, but I think it's good practice to start with a nice flat surface. So we're going to start on our flat surface. I've got a piece of A4 paper. I think what we'll do is we'll start with just a real standard easy one, and then we'll have a bit of a play and we'll play with some different shapes. So I'm going to get my 4 highlighter pens here, and what I think I've realized is that I like I've thought about this, and you guys might not care about this at all, and that's absolutely fine. You can be totally random with this. But I think what I've realised is that I like to split. So basically we need to split them in half so that we've got 2 layers. So you want 2 for your bottom layer and 2 for your bottom layer. So I think I've realised that this is the 2 sets that I like. I think it's because then you've got 2 warms and 2 colds. Not that the green is particularly cold, but it's more contrasting. So the pink and the yellow are quite contrasting, and the orange and the green are quite contrasting. I feel like if we put them together like this, then these 2 are too similar and these 2 are too similar. I really like pink and yellow together. It makes me think of sweeties. So we're going to go with the pink and yellow, and we're going to go with the green and orange. Now, it depends how you feel about which layer goes first. I really don't think it matters. Where have I just put my examples? Oh, over here. So we can try both. I think, I'm not sure what I've done here, but I think what we'll do is we're going to start with the pink and the yellow, and we'll see what happens. We'll have a go. So essentially, this is going to be a lot of repetition. I'm going to take the lids off and I'm going to leave them off so that we're not forever pulling them off and on again. And we're just going to have a play. So the first thing I would encourage you to do, we're going to go borderless with this one. So we're going to literally go over the edge, because I think that that helps with the overall effect. So I'm going to go, and I've got what we're going to try and make sure that we're doing is we're always using the full flat edge of the pen, if that makes sense. So we're always going to use the thickest that we can of the highlighter. So I'm going to start from this edge here, and I'm going to simply do a sort of jaggedy, wavy line that's quite random, and it's going to go all the way along the page. Hopefully you can see that that's nice and bright and zingy. So then all that we're going to do is we're going to take our contrasting colour and we're going to follow that line on either side. And the hardest part about this, I would say, is that we don't want to see any white of the paper. So you might be able to see right here, there's like a tiny bit of white. So I'll probably go over that. And I'm going to follow that line all the way along. And I'm going to go over any bits that I've missed. I'm going to try not to overlap the pink too much, because then we get a bit of an orangey colour. All the way along like so. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. I might turn the page around just to make it easier for me. And I'm going to go all the way along. And I'm going to work my way to the edge. And there we've got the basis for our, basically for our highlighter art. So now I'm going to go in with the yellow, and I'm going to do either side of that. And again, I'm going to try really carefully not to have any white showing, but also not to overlap too much with the pink. And I imagine you can probably see where this is going. We're just going to do a lot of this basically, but we're going to do a few different variations as well, because we can. And this is where the sort of mindfulness aspect comes in, because once you've got your first line, once you're happy with your first wiggly line, you're just copying at that point. You're just sort of copying the line. You're just following the line, which is a really nice, relaxing thing to do, I think. And especially with these pens, because they're so smooth, and they've got that lovely flat chisel sort of nib. And you'll see I'm going to keep turning my pen page around so that if I find it easy to go along from one side to the other, because we're doubling up on the colours. We're doing 2 of each colour. Now, if you wanted to, if you really wanted to take your time with this, you could just do yellow, pink, and work your way down, and that would be fine. I'm only really doing this to save a bit of time because I'm not having to pick up my pen quite so often because I'm doing 2 lines at a time. And I think the reason that this is so effective is because we're doing this sort of wiggly line, because it's quite random, quite abstract. When we go over it with the next 2 colours, that's where the sort of magic happens. And you get this sort of, what do you call it, kaleidoscopic? I don't know, it's got a kind of, yeah, is it kaleidoscopic or sort of psychedelic kind of feel to it? It's sort of a bit crazy on the eyes. And there's nothing to stop us, actually. I mean, I hadn't even thought about doing this, but now I'm speaking to you, I'm thinking I probably could have gone one step further and actually done something with it. So once we're done with our page, we could probably go over the top of it. So you could probably, you know, get a black pen and do a nice funky quote or something like that. The possibilities are endless. This will make fantastic backgrounds for stuff, I think. And I imagine as well, like, it'd be quite good to sort of cut up as well, I think, you know? Quite nice to sort of chop up. Oh, I'm just thinking, actually, I wonder if, maybe I'll have a go afterwards and show you guys if it's successful. But if we were to do this on some like quite thick card, we could cut it up into like little rectangles and make them into like gift tags, which would be really good for Christmas because they'd be really bright and colourful. We could quite easily chop these up into little tag shapes, maybe add like a gold star or something. They'd make a great background for a gift tag, I think. It's almost sort of like it almost has that sort of marble, you know, when you sort of marble paper. Now, I have to say, I've tried marbling paper. My auntie bought me the marbling paints and inks where you sort of do the drips into the tray of water and then you mix them up and then you lay the paper in. I just could not master that at all. I just ended up like, I don't know if I just used too much of the ink, but it all got gloopy and it all just stuck to the stick that you're using to swoosh it round. Oh, it was ever so messy. So this is a really good alternative. Yeah, I mean, I would say, Liz, this is sort of quite a nice one that you could experiment with. So if you are struggling with time and you aren't able to watch this whole session, of course you could go back and rewatch it. But I encourage you just to have a play with some highlighters. As long as you get the sort of, I think the main key to this is as long as you've got your 4 colours and as long as you split those 2 colours up for your 2 layers, then there are lots of different options for you. And yeah, this is a really good one to do with a group, I think. I did this with my kids. So what I often do with most of my virtual village hall sessions is I make an example piece for myself first so that I know that I can teach you how to do it. Make sure I can do it first. I think that's the key, isn't it? And then I usually see if my kids can do it and see what they come up with, because I really like seeing sort of how their imaginations work, because sometimes they'll have a go and they'll sort of do something that I hadn't thought of, and then I'll be able to teach you that as well. And yeah, they really enjoyed doing this too. So I feel like this lends itself for definitely, whether it's a group of adults or a group of children, I think this is a really nice one because you can kind of let them get on with it and experiment. And hopefully you'll enjoy this sort of extra elements of this that I'm going to show you in a little while, because we are going to give these ones a bit of a glow up. Unbelievably, they're already quite glowing. So you'll see I'm sort of working my way across here, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do the whole of this page. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to do the whole thing or not. I think it's going to depend entirely on how much time I have. But I'm going to sort of work. I'm sort of trying to see if I can do half of the page. Because I don't want to spend, I mean, I kind of want to do the whole page. I really want to do the whole page, but I also want to show you some different bits as well. So I'm probably going to do it, make myself get up to the top of this bit, I think is probably key. But I would say, I mean, I just don't know when to stop. Once I've got pens in my hands, I just can't end. I don't know when to finish at all. But what I would say is, currently, this looks quite nice. You know, I think this works on its own anyway. So in terms of like filling the space, I don't think you need to fill the whole paper if you don't want to. There's lots of different options here. You can stop whenever you want to, really. So maybe I should. Maybe I'll stop a bit sooner than I usually would, so we can see what happens. It's really hard. I'll tell you what's really hard, because this is so relaxing. I'm finding it really hard to remember to speak to you because I'm just like following the lines very quietly, tootling along, when I need to remember to tell you what I'm doing, because it is very enjoyable. It feels really nice, because highlighter pens are really slidey as well. You know, they're not sort of they're not hard to use. They glide really nicely. Right, so at this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at this bottom bit, and I'm going to carry on doing this bit just for a little bit, just so I've nearly filled this top corner, and then I'll show you what happens when we use our next two colours. And because we're just following one line, it sort of changes over time. So like here, it's quite wiggly, and now it's sort of starting to phase out slightly. So this is why I think it's really important to make your first lines really wiggly. They could also be quite jaggedy as well. We'll do a jagged one next. As long as you're being quite wavy with your waves, then this will work, because over time, as the more that we do it, it will sort of start to level out a bit. And what we don't want is any straight lines, because if we had straight lines, then I think it will really lose its overall effect. So I think that's not that I like to give people rules with art classes, because I don't think there are any rules, but if I was to say a rule, it would be don't do straight lines, because I just think this looks way more fun. Okay, I think this is probably a good place for me to stop, because this is not too wavy anymore. Lovely. I mean, already it looks great. I quite like this as it is. I can do lots with it. It's quite abstract and interesting. But this is where the magic happens. So I'm going to put the lids back onto my pink and yellow, and then I'm going to start with my orange and my green. So for the next part, I would say the only thing we need to remember is that we don't want it to be going in generally the same direction. So I know it's not a straight line. We don't want it to be straight at all, but generally speaking, all of the lines are pointing this way. So what we want to make sure we're doing with the next two colours is that they are crossing over in some description. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be like a cross, but it does need to go sort of not that way, basically. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, if we start with the orange one, so that's going this way. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here. and I'm going to do a wiggly line going that way, and then that will be my base point. Now you'll see, because I've not filled the page, so with this one it doesn't matter quite so much because we're just getting from edge to edge of the paper. But with this one, we've got again, I think the overall effect looks better if all of it sits as one piece. So what I mean by that is the white area stays the same throughout. So when I start with this orange, I'm going to start right on the edge there, and I'm not going to overlap onto this white at all. Hopefully that makes sense, but I'll show you now. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to do a nice wiggly line, and then I'm going to stop on that pink bit there. And I'm going to make sure it's nice and neat. Oh, it looks so yummy. It's really zingy in real life. I promise it's much more zingy in real life. I promise. I mean, it still looks pretty bright on the camera, but you know, I just think neons they lose their neon a bit when they're being filmed. I don't know why. So now I'm going to go in with the green, and again I'm going to work either side. I'm going to try my best not to overlap, so forgive me while I concentrate, while I follow this orange line all the way down, and then again I'm going to stop without overlapping onto that white. Turn it around to make it easier for myself. Fill that gap in. So the gaps are more obvious now because we've got colour shining through underneath, so we'll be more careful about filling our gaps. And then we're going to work around, and hopefully at this point you can kind of see the whole point of the session. The whole point is that when we overlap the two colours over the other two colours, it looks really good. And hopefully that's pretty obvious on the camera, even though the neon doesn't seem to look as great as it does in real life. And hopefully you can also understand this concept here where I'm sort of keeping to the lines, I'm not overlapping, and that's sort of helping with that overall sort of psychedelic effect. And you can see, this is what I love about it, is that you can see that crossover so nicely. You can see the pink and yellow stripes. Oh, lovely. I have to be really careful here because I'm just cracking on with this, and there are a couple of other things I'd like to show you. So I don't know if I'll do the whole of this. I would like to though. Yeah, this is such a mindful craft. It's so mindful, it's so relaxing. And actually, I'm sort of talking about filling the gaps and not going over, sort of not crossing over the lines and things like that. But it's also quite nice to just do it, and then you can always go back and sort of fill the bits where you've made little mistakes. I mean, not that you can really make mistakes. The only thing that you can do really is sort of leave ever so slight little gaps, which is fine. And again, like this itself looks really nice as it is. So you don't have to go the full way if you don't want to. That's the joy of this, is the sort of the craft itself is very easy. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it looks really good quite easily. Effective, is that the word I'm looking for? But you can still make nice creative decisions about what direction you go in, how much of it you fill, how much of it you don't fill. You know, like I feel like I'd want to fill this whole bit with the orange and green so that all of it has the crossover. But you might decide to sort of have it overlapping, have some of the pink and yellow showing. What time are we on? Just checking the time so I can see how much of this I can complete before I move on to our next assignment, which is basically the same thing, but we're going to jazz it up a little bit. So I'm going to keep going for a little bit longer, just so we can see the overall effect from sort of, I suppose, the sort of how your eye, because we're all sort of watching it as it unfolds, but it's sort of how your eye sees it, like first off, really, as an overall piece. We're getting there, aren't we? We're definitely getting there. And I would say, I mean, usually I have like a real opinion on the sort of paper that we should use for certain things. And I always try to use paper that doesn't cost a whole heap of money. I don't like buying expensive paper at all. But because highlighter pens are sort of designed to be used, you know, in study and things like that, and in books, it means that actually it works really beautifully on just really normal printing paper. There's no, I definitely don't think there's, you know, I couldn't suggest a better paper, apart from if we're going to use it for something else when we might want to use card. But then, even if we did use our sort of standard printing paper, we could always cut it out, stick it on, could mount it onto card if we needed to. But this feels really nice, apart from all the lumps on my cutting board, which is very annoying. But also it is less annoying than the grain on my desk, because then it would be really bumpy. But yeah, I'd say that is one point for sure, is you definitely want a nice flat surface, because if you're on a bumpy surface, this isn't mindful anymore. It's quite annoying. This is okay, actually. My cutting board's fine. There's just a few little nicks that I keep catching on it, because I use this cutting board for basically everything. I think maybe I need to treat myself to a new cutting board. I think that's what we've learned. They're not that expensive, I don't think. Okay. So we're doing quite well with filling this space up. I'm just wondering if I want to sort of maybe fill just this bit. So as I did before, where I sort of stopped, I might just try and fill this bit. But you can see, can't you? It's like super effective. It's got a really nice look to it, even though I feel like it's not finished. You know, I'd be happier if this was completely filled. But for the purposes of showing you guys, I think it looks fine as it is, actually. And nothing's stopping you cutting it out as well, actually. So you could cut out the elements that you like. You could draw shapes on the other side to cut out. So you've got circles and things. I mean, talking of circles, we are going to do some circles in a minute. So don't worry, I've got more tricks up my sleeve. So I'm just going to fill up to the edge here, just so I feel like we're sort of at an end point in some way. Nearly there. Nearly there. Nearly there. Okay, I'm going to call it fab. So that, friends, is basically highlighter art. That's basically it. But there's definitely different things that we can do. So I'm tempted to use the same piece of paper, and maybe I'll start with orange and green. So we're going to do a little exercise in a minute, but I just thought very quickly I'd sort of show you a few sort of spirally ones. I would say the spiral ones are harder because you sort of have to do it a bit at a time. It's really hard to get the width of the pen sort of, what am I trying to say? It's really hard to leave a gap that's the width of the pen, using just your eyes, that's quite difficult. So you sort of have to do it yourself. You sort of have to do it a bit at a time. Although, as I'm speaking, I'm just wondering if circles would be easier than spirals. So maybe I'll try a circle. I haven't tried this before, so we'll try it. So if I was to do a little circle like that, which you can barely see, and then if I was to go round it like that, it's just harder. It's already more tricksy than just doing the wiggly lines. So I'll do this very quickly, but the only reason I'm sort of saying this really is I just want to encourage you to have a play, because there's no harm in it really. Whatever you do, it's going to look pretty cool. But this is much more time consuming, much harder to be neat, definitely less mindful, but no harm in trying. So I think the reason the circular shapes are quite difficult is because they've got chisel nibs. So if you've got a pen with a chisel nib, they like straight lines, but they don't like circular lines, are harder to keep neat, if that makes sense. But still worth a go. Loads of different shapes you could try. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do much of this because I'd like to move on to the next little activity. I'm wondering if I just go one more orange along here, what would happen if we did our circles and then we went over it with lines rather than circles? Let's see what happens. So I'm going to put the lids back on some orange and green. I'm going to get my yellow and pink, and I'm just going to go across like so, see what happens. It's really hard. It's quite hard to make neat, I have to say. And I think the other thing that I've realised here, and I wasn't sure at the time because I didn't have proof, but I think we want to always start with the yellow. I think the yellow has to be the first colour on the page. So you always want to start with the yellow and a pink rather than a green and orange, because the green and orange are a bit darker. And so the yellow stands out really nicely on the white paper, and then it's easy to go over the top. Because I don't think that yellow is as zingy. I mean, it looks okay on the camera, but in real life, you get a real nice poppy. So I think we always start with the yellow on the white. And therefore, if you've got the same colours I have, I think we always start with pink and yellow and then work on top with the orange and the green. I think that's the best option. If you've got blues and purples, though, all bets are off. I think you're going to have to see for yourselves what. I mean, I did try with some purples and blues, but they weren't up to my standard of highlighter because they were like 60p and they were for kids, so they were like that big, so they weren't very good. And they didn't have a chisel tip, which made it much harder. So we now understand how to do the highlighter art. We understand the crossover of the colours. You want 2 layers with 2 colours of each. We should start with the pink and yellow, I think. I think it's brighter that way. And then the overlapping of the colours. And as long as they're always touching and you don't have any white marks, then I think it looks really, really effective. So the next thing we're going to do, let's see, hopefully this will work quite nicely. Let me get this first. So I thought what we could do is we could try and make ourselves a stencil. So all I've done here is I've cut out a circle on a piece of card. So this is like a piece of card from an old, I think it had like paper in it. So I've drawn around the bottom of a tin, and you might decide, it could be any size circle really, as long as it's going to fit the paper. I've done quite a small one just so it doesn't take a long time to show you. And then I've got my craft knife here because I think that's a neater way of drawing round a circle. So if you How could you do this? I mean, you definitely can do it with scissors, can't you? You can, you know, make a little bend in it, but just be super careful when you're doing it, because you kind of want this circle to be really neat and perfect and flat. So if you feel confident to cut out a circle with scissors, then go for it. I think if you're using smaller scissors as well, that can work. So if you're using like nail scissors, that will be fine. But I'm just using this craft knife because I know it's then going to be a really nice straight line. I can't see where I've started. There we go. And then we've got, once we've taken that out, we've got a really lovely, oh, I've not cut that bit well enough, have I? Which bit is it? Struggling to come out. I'm just going to go over that bit again. And then we've got a lovely circular template then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a new piece of white paper and I'm going to pop the stencil on top of it. I think I might stick it down. So I've got some washi tape here, and hopefully this washi tape is not going to rip the paper. So I don't want anything too sticky. I just want it to hold in place a little bit, really. And I'm not being very neat about this at all. I'm not really lining this up. As you can see, this is not really in the center of the paper at all. So you might want to take a bit more time sort of placing this in the right place. But I just drew around a nice size circle. I didn't try to do anything fancy. So you might want to think more about the placement of it and how big the circle is and what you're doing it on, all that sort of thing. But also, saying that, you could be quite nonchalant about it like me, and then you could cut it out afterwards and then stick it somewhere. So if we're using printing paper, we might do this and then cut it to size and then stick it onto some card if we were doing anything fancy with it, like if we were turning it into a greetings card and that sort of thing. But if not, we're going to have a lovely circular image at the end of it anyway. So we're going to do basically the same thing again. We're going to do the pink and yellow first, but we're going to use this template. So hopefully when we take it off, we'll have a lovely perfect circle, which will look really, really effective. I'm going to try to make this one a bit more jagged and see if that affects anything, see if that looks good. So I'm going to use the edge of the circle. So I'm going to go over the edge of it. And I've made that quite jagged. And so now I'm going to do the same. So this might take a little bit longer in that I'm having to be a bit more precise with where my pen goes. So it's going to go thinner on the bits when I move upwards. I'm going to remember to turn my paper around when I need to make it easier for me. I'm sort of almost now using the chisel edge to make thicker and thinner lines, and maybe that will be quite a bit more effective. But I'm also not going as slow as I'd like, because I want to sort of have this one finished to show you. So I would probably take a bit more time on this. So if you're watching this going, oh my goodness, she's going too quickly, I would be doing this much slower and more neat. But I want to finish this circular piece so we can all ooh and ah at it when we take the cardboard off. Oh, make that bit a bit thicker. Quite nice doing it with this template, actually. It is quite effective. I would say that you do really need your template to be thicker. I mean, this isn't very thick card at all, but I think if it was, maybe it would work with paper. You'd just be you might just be more likely to sort of, break it as you were sort of going over the edge. So I feel safer with card, but this is not thick card at all. It's just not paper. I'm just going to fill that little gap there. I sort of feel like when you use a circular template, it sort of looks like a like something that should be in a recording studio. Like it looks, somehow it looks like it's sound, like sound waves. Ah, I wonder, just had an idea for like a nice sort of unique gift. If this is successful, if we get a lovely circular image at the end of this, what you could do is, if you were to sort of turn it into a card or a print, you could sort of write in like really beautiful writing underneath it. You could write the name of like somebody's favorite song and then gift it and make a really nice Christmas present or Christmas card, because it's sort of personalized, because this sort of looks a bit like a sound wave. Just wondering if you could turn that into something, because I have seen on places like Etsy, you can buy like personalized like prints that look like records that have the name of the person's favorite band on or whatever. I feel like this is a much cheaper alternative. You're doing it yourself with your highlighter pens. So this is, I tell you what, it gets more tricky as you get towards the edge, because you sort of have this, the edge of the circle feels harder to deal with. It's harder to be neat. So I'm just going to go in with this last bit here. And then finish this bit here. There we go. Okay, so now we've done our pink and yellow, we can move on to our second colour. Hopefully shouldn't take too long, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction again. So I'm going to start here, do a nice jagged line, and then follow it with the orange. I forgot to turn the paper around. I wondered why this was really tricky. It's because I'm going the wrong way. I think what I've realised is that it's much easier to move the pen towards you. Now, this might be completely different for you. You might find that you want to move the pen away from you, but I find it, if I'm dragging the pen towards me, it sort of definitely has, the movement is much better. Orange. And I'm just thinking now, it doesn't have to be a circle, it could be any shape really. You could make like a wave shape, couldn't you? Or if you have the ability to cut things out quite intricately, I wonder if you could cut out more interesting shapes to fill. I think as long as you've got quite a big surface area. Okay. Now I am going to do all of this. I'm tempted to sort of stop, but I can't see what it's going to look like because I've got the template on. So I'm going to do the whole thing. I'd feel better if I did the whole thing. I've filled it all. And then I can see what it looks like. Forgot what colour I was doing then. Then back to green. This is where it gets a bit tricky. Those edges are quite hard to deal with. Okay. And this one. Okay, and green. Oh, I reckon we're done that side. I'll just finish off this side. Ooh, so close. Tiny little dot of green there. And I'd say that's finished. Woof. Oh, amazing. A bag of highlighters you've never used. That's wonderful. This is a really good feeling poorly craft, definitely, because you can definitely do it in bed. If you've just got a hard book to lean on, really, really great poorly craft. I hope you get better soon. But I'm very jealous that you've got a bag of highlighters. I wish I had a bag of highlighters. I'm really bitter about the kids ones I bought that don't work very well, because I really wanted a blue one that worked and it didn't. So I'm going to have to invest in some nice blue highlighters. Okay, shall we do the reveal? I mean, I hope it looks good. It might look terrible, who knows? But I've used this washi tape so that it doesn't stick to the paper, so I can rip it off quite easily. Let's see if our template has worked nicely. See if we've got a nice neat circle. Okay, ready? Ta-da! Oh, that's worked perfectly. That edge is very neat, I would say. Yeah, I think that's worked really, really well. So really happy to say that the cardboard template works really well. I'd say this is probably about the same thickness as a cereal box. So you could do this with a cereal box and any shape you like. But yeah, that's worked so well, hasn't it? That circle looks great. And I feel like cut down to size, or we could go over it with something else. I'm just wondering if I have a black pen that is working to hand. I've got a marker pen here. Does it work? So I'm just thinking if we could sort of do something over the top of it. So is this dry? I think highlighter pens can be a bit wet, can't they? But I'm just wondering if we had like a black marker pen, could we do something across the middle of it? So I'm just going to do a cheeky little bit of calligraphy here. That looks quite nice, doesn't it? Just go over those edges a little bit. So I think, yeah, black, as I suspected, doing sort of black text either over the top or underneath looks really effective, because it's sort of very, very contrasting to the lovely neon colours. I'm trying to do these edges a bit thicker, but I think I should probably just stop what I'm doing because I'm just going to add to it, aren't I? I won't know when to stop. So that works quite nicely, doesn't it? I'm just wondering now if we were to go back to our other piece, like how we might go over the top of it so that we could do some, if I just did some writing, I'm going to write lots of love. So this is another sort of step in the highlighter art, is that we could I'm trying really hard to do this without leaning on the black because I don't want to smudge it. But I think the black writing on top is really, really effective. And you're sort of just, the writing can be dictated by the shape of the lines, really, can't they? That's looking good, isn't it? So that's really effective. So I feel like this started out as me just thinking, oh, we'll do the highlighter art because it's a really mindful craft. To me now conjuring up a million different ideas for sort of cards and gifts. But there we go. I've finished. I'm a little bit earlier than usual, but it is a really, really simple craft that anyone can have a go at. So as long as you've got your 4 highlighter pens, and I think, and again, maybe I'll get back to you if I get myself a nice blue and purple one that work really well, then I'll let you know the layer situation. But I think I'm safe in saying that you pink and yellow work best as your first layer, and your orange and green work best as your second layer, because the yellow is nice and zingy, and that orange and green sort of let them shine through nicely. So yeah, I think we start with yellow and pink, and then we go over the top with orange and green. And as long as the second layer is going in the opposite direction of your first layer, then you're going to get this really beautiful sort of kaleidoscopic effect. And I've used a template here to make a beautiful perfect circle, which I can stick down and create that lovely, lovely sharp edge, which has worked really, really well. Or if you so wish, you can do what I did here, which is where I filled a whole piece of paper, and that was a real joy to do. It was really, really enjoyable. So if you wanted to just fill a whole sheet, just go to town with it, and you don't have to think about anything then. You can just do your colours. But yeah, the possibilities here are endless, aren't they? Let us know how you get on. If you have any images, if you'd like to send them to us, we'd love to see them. And if you haven't been able to watch this live, you can watch it back. Or if you've watched it and you want to watch it again, you can go to the archives on Facebook and re-watch it, so you can pause it at any point. But really, I just want you to have an experiment with your highlighter pens. As long as you've got 4 colours, you'll be good to go. So hopefully that was a really mindful, relaxing session for you. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you'll have a go at it. And I'm going to be back soon. When am I back? Either next week or the week after. It is very soon, I'm sure. Or is it in November? Can't remember, but I will be back doing some more crafts. My next session is going to be a bit of origami and bookmaking, which is quite fun. Again, a very simple craft using really just like a couple of bits of A4 paper. So I like to make sure the crafts are really easy and accessible to all of you. So I'd love for you to join then. My name's Rosie. My business is Rosie and Ramona. And I hope you all have a really, really lovely rest of your day. And yeah, Alison, I hope you get better soon. But have a go at this in bed. I might just do that now. I might go get into bed, have a cup of tea, and crack on with some highlighter art. But thank you so much, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye.